What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Crime Center. I want to thank everybody who's been watching my videos from the jump. Y'all are the real ones. To everybody new just coming in, welcome to my channel. I do prison and crime related content here. I'm still new to it, so I'm learning as I go. And I thank you for being here and giving my channel a chance. So today, I'm going to talk about prison. One of the things about prison that nobody understands is how dangerous it is. I've been around people and we've had these conversations where they don't think prison is as bad as some of the stories they hear. So one of the stories I always like to tell people outside of videos is the one that I'm going to tell y'all today, because it's very real. There's times where it could be boring and mediocre, and then there's times when it's very hectic, chaotic. One way to put it is like, if you've ever lived in a hood in any kind of city that's a bad hood, that's basically what prison is all day, every day. You're hanging out with other people who live the same lifestyle as you, or maybe you might be someone who doesn't live that lifestyle, but you found yourself in prison anyways. So then that's a bad thing for that person. So the story that I like to tell people is, I remember one time I was classified as G5. You have general population. If you mess up enough times, you get classified as a G4, which you get locked down. I think it was like half the day or something like that. And you're in the cell with one other person. Everybody there are mess ups, so you're going to have a lot of drama. And then if you keep messing up there, you get classified as a G5, where you're locked down for 23 hours a day. You only come out for 1 hour. And that's for rec, because the unit I was on, we had showers in the room. So you got to take a shower in the room with another person. We hang a sheet up, try to make some kind of curtain, a little privacy. It's not much, but it's all you got. So in G5, I had already been there maybe 2 years. I did quite a bit of time in G5 and AdSeg, because at that time, I couldn't get my life together and act like a grown-up. I was young, I was dumb, and full of, I believe you've heard the rest of that before. So in G5, the most action you're going to get all day is talking to your cellmate and going to your little window and doing prison sign language to other people across from you who can see you. So you sit there and you talk to people doing sign language all day till you get bored. Then you go back, talk to your cellie, work out. There's not a lot to do. Read books. So there used to be these dudes across from me, 2 white guys. One of them had 3 months left before he went home. Another one had like a year. They were both very, very short timers. At this point in my sentence, because I did 10 years, I think I had 6 years left. So they were very short time. They had messed up, got back there somehow. All they had to do was just, chill. Because, number one, not to disrespect anybody or make anybody feel like they're inferior to anybody, but in the prisons that I was in here in Texas, the white guys were at the bottom of the totem pole. They were considered the weakest race in prison, and they usually got it bad. Now, there was some white guys in there who were about that life. Like, they were real. But there was the majority of the white guys that would go in there for whatever reason. They would be scared to fight, wouldn't stand up for themselves, and everybody else would take advantage, take their commissary, slap them around a little bit. So it was hard in prison for white guys, the ones who would stand up for themselves, because they were already looked at like the rest of the weaker ones. So they had to go in there and they had it probably 10 times as bad as anybody else that was brand new coming in there. They had a lot to prove because the ones before them didn't show anything for that. So knowing how bad they have it, to find two guys that got lucky enough to be put in a cell, you would think that they would just chill, do the rest of their small time and go home. The guy who had a year wasn't going to make it out of G5. He would have left to his house from there. So you and this guy just got to do your time and go. Well, I guess out in the world, one of the guys, well, I don't even remember what his name was. I think it was like Hawk or something, the one that had 1 year left. And the other guy really didn't talk to him, the one with the 3 months. But I used to talk to Hawk. He was an okay guy. You could tell he had a little bit of problems up here. But not too bad. You know, he was just a little crazy. And I mean, that's a good thing when you're locked up, because you need a call on all that craziness and violence so that way you can survive in there. Well, he had a drug problem. And usually when people have big drug problems and then they get locked up, they have certain tendencies about themselves where you can tell that they used to be a dope fiend. And that's what this guy was. He was a dope fiend. One of the only ways to calm that craving, I'll say, is to smoke cigarettes and drink coffee. So he used to drink coffee all day long. Cup after cup after cup, morning, noon, night. He was always drinking coffee. For them, because of their status and who they were, it wasn't easy for them to get a hold of cigarettes. Me and my celly, on the other hand, you know, we had a little name for ourselves. People knew us. He was affiliated with the gang. I was not. But I had been through and done so many things that I had my respect. Don't take that from me saying I was big and bad. I wasn't. I got into plenty of fights in there. I won just as much as I lost, and I've had just as many ties. I'll never sit here and make myself sound like I was Billy Badass, because I wasn't. But I had a name for myself, I had respect, and I earned that the hard way with ease. So I, at the time, which I'll tell this in another story, I had a whole bunch of things at that time. A whole bunch of things you're not supposed to have. And it was very easy for me to get a hold of cigarettes, a little bit of weed, whatever, right? So we used to smoke a lot. And the guy across from us, he used to fiend for them cigarettes, I guess because it would make him feel better because he was fiending for dope. So, you know, we didn't care. You could charge $5 for one little cigarette. And when I mean one little cigarette, you take one regular cigarette out here in the world, you take the tobacco out, and you roll that into 3 little pinners. And you sell each of those for $5 a piece. Especially if it's dry and not everybody has cigarettes. Same thing for the weed. It's them little pinners. And those things could go for, it just depends on the time. Like, it depends on what's going on at the time, and how much there is floating around, who has access to it, how bad you want it. You can make a lot of money off them little pinners. So, you know, we didn't care. Me and my celly would pass them a cigarette every now and then. Like, hey, you and your celly smoke this, you know, y'all cool, like, whatever. It wasn't no big deal to us. We could always get more. We always had a lot. So we used to pass them cigarettes. Well, one time, we got locked down. And we got locked down at a bad time because it was right when we were getting low on everything, and then we were about to get more in. But we got put on lockdown before we could get more in. Which meant that the little bit that we did have, we were going to keep for ourselves until we got off of lockdown and could get more. So when Hawk asked us for a cigarette one day, we told him we couldn't do it. And he was not used to us telling him no, because So when we did tell him no, you could tell he didn't like it, but he wasn't going to disrespect us either. You don't bite the hand that feeds you. So we're on lockdown for a couple of days. The dude's going through it. He's already feeding for dope. He's already getting low on coffee, so he can't drink it all day like he wants to. He can't smoke a cigarette to calm his nerves. So we hear them start arguing. Hawk starts arguing with his cellmate almost every day for about 3 days. You hear yelling, and I'm going to do this to you, I'm going to do that to you, whatever, right? And we hear that for like 3 days. They're arguing. We know that they're going through it, right? And I get it. I've been there. Well, one day when me and Hawk are at the windows talking to each other, he's telling me that, his cellmate's annoying him. He ain't had a cigarette. He's aggravated. His cellmate's getting annoying, kind of getting disrespectful. And as we're sitting there talking and he's telling me this stuff, he cuts it off mid-saying language, turns around, gets a towel, covers up the window, and you can hear them start fighting. The fighting usually in prison, it seems like it lasts for a long time, but it really doesn't. It lasts for about 30 seconds to 1 minute, and that's a long fight, 1 minute. But this time, you hear fighting, and then you don't hear fighting anymore. You hear a one-sided confrontation going on. You can tell when people are fighting because you hear the sneakers squeaking all of that, skirt, 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 and you hear a bunch of thudding and slamming and all the kinds of stuff, right? But then you don't hear the sneakers anymore. You just kind of hear like something getting hit. And we don't know what it is. It sounds weird, doesn't sound like a regular fight. So nobody really knows what's going on, but me and some people around me that can see towards that cell, we're all standing at the door and everybody's wondering like, what's going on? So I say this dude doesn't come back and open up the window probably for about an hour, hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours. And when he finally does take it down, I try talking to him. He just turns around and doesn't say anything. So I was like, all right, maybe he beat his celly up. Maybe Hawk beat his celly up and, he doesn't want to talk right now. Maybe he's just trying to chill and let his nerves come down. Because you get hyped up when you get into fights. Your adrenaline's going. You don't really want to do anything else but like try to relax. So he doesn't say anything. Soon after that, chow comes. They bring our food. They stick it through the slots. Everybody eats, puts the trays back out. And that's the highlight of the day. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner when they bring us our trays. Because rec, we don't really ever get that. Even though we're supposed to. So, after a while, a couple of days, we haven't seen the other guy come to the door for anything. Not for his tray, not for his laundry, when we exchange laundry, for nothing. So everybody's starting to wonder, like, hey, this guy's not talking to us anymore. I haven't seen what's his name in a while. Did he get beat up that bad? Like, damn. So it had already been 3-4 days since that fight, and since we saw Hawk's cellmate. And then maybe another 3 days after that. It was like a week total. Where one day one of the guards comes by and he's doing count. Where they have to count each inmate in a cell. And what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to lay eyes on you and your cellmate and then mark it down as 2 people in the cell. They don't do that. They'll just go by, they'll look. You could be under your blankets sleeping. As long as they see something that looks like a body in there, they'll check it off. 2 people, there you go, bye. Well, there's always that one guard that does his job the way that he's supposed to, or she. They're not just going to mark it off and walk on by. They're going to do their job correctly. So this guard knocks on the window And Hawk comes to the door and he's like, hey, tell your cellmate to move. I guess he was under his blanket or whatever. I can't see in the cell. I'm just guessing at this point. So you can see him turn around and start talking, and he's like, no, tell him I need him to move. Then you hear him yelling like, come on, man, I told you he's sleeping. He's like, I don't care. You need to tell him to move. I need to see his face. Tell him to take the covers off. Dude doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to get up. Or at least that's what we thought at the time. What ends up happening is that guard can't get his cellmate to show his face. So he calls on his little radio, calls the sarge, the lieutenant, and a couple of other guards. They come over there. They wait there for the turtles to come. The turtles are all suited and booted with all kinds of stab vests, knee pads, shields, everything, right? Helmets. And they tell him, last time, tell your cellmate to move. And he doesn't do it. So they tell him, come put your hands outside the slot. They handcuff him. They open the door. They pull him out. Turtles are right there ready to whoop some ass if they have to, because nobody knows what's going on. The sergeant walks in, tells that guy, hey, show your face, and pulls the covers back. They automatically get Hawk, slam him to the ground, and hold him there while the lieutenant and a couple other guards go in the cell. What ended up happening was, when it started sounding like this, there was like a one-sided fight. Hawk started stomping on his cellie. He had beat him up to where the dude couldn't protect himself anymore, and then he stomped him. He just stomped and stomped and stomped and stomped, and that's why it sounded like it was taking so long, because that fight sounded forever. He stomped this dude until that guy was no longer on this earth. He was no longer alive. All over a cigarette. And because he was fiending for dope. He got mad at this dude and took him up off this earth for not even a whole cigarette, for a third of a cigarette. And everybody was tripping out like, man, this dude only had 1 year to go home. His cellmate only had 3 months. They did a big investigation. They went around and they started trying to ask people, what did you see? What did you hear? Of course, nobody was going to say anything. That's just, I know that sucks and it sounds bad, but inmates are not going to say nothing. I mean, you have some that will, but we weren't. It's not our business. We're not snitching, you know? So I remember hearing almost a year later that the Hawk, who had a year left, ended up getting a life sentence for that killing. And it was said that the bottom of his feet were so black from being bruised that that's how bad he stomped that guy for a cigarette. So whenever people tell me like, oh, prison can't be that bad, y'all just telling big stories. Believe what you want. But little things like that, just somebody getting aggravated to the point where they can't control themselves anymore. What if you were going home the next day and somebody decided to stomp you out that night? You turned that 1 day into a life sentence. You got the death penalty. So like I tell people all the time, prison's not where you want to be. Get your act together. Fix yourself. Stay out of trouble. And enjoy your life. It's not worth it. But I'm going to be coming out with another video soon. I want to thank everybody for coming and watching Crime Center. I hope you all enjoyed that story. It's a sad one, but it's just the realities of prison. Thank y'all. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Show me some love. Got another video dropping soon. And remember, Life is too precious. Life is too short. Enjoy it while you can. And like always, stay tuned.